After Alexander the Great entered Egypt, one door closed and a whole new one opened in Egyptian history. The reign of the pharaohs ended, and the kingdom went to the Greeks. But in this world, one woman would emerge who changed all the rules. A woman who used intelligence before strength and beauty before the sword. Her name was Cleopatra, the last queen of ancient Egypt. She stood alone against the entire Roman Empire, and she transformed history from mere events to a legend that lives on to this day. After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, the whole world was turned upside down. The great empire he had built was divided among his generals like a piece of cake. As for Egypt, it fell into the hands of one of his greatest generals, Ptolemy I. This man, although he was Greek, decided to do something no one had imagined. He decided to become a pharaoh. But not just any pharaoh, a Greek pharaoh, in Egyptian dress and with a golden crown bearing the symbols of Horus and Isis. At first, people were surprised. How could a Greek rule Egypt? But Ptolemy was too smart to rule by force. He ruled by reason and the symbols the Egyptians revered. He began building temples in the ancient Egyptian style and participating in the priests' rituals. He even began to revere Egyptian gods alongside the Greek ones. Even the new god Serapis was a hybrid of the Egyptian god Osiris and the Greek god Zeus. And here, something very strange was born. An Egyptian-Greek civilization, a blend of East and West, and at its heart, a city that was the dream of every scholar, Alexandria. This city was more than just a capital. It was the mind of the entire world. Its library, the greatest intellectual project in ancient history. It contained hundreds of thousands of books from every civilization on Earth. And there, geniuses emerged who changed the face of human knowledge. Like Euclid, who founded the science of geometry, and Eratosthenes, who calculated the circumference of the Earth with amazing accuracy without ever leaving Egypt. Alexandria was a city of dreams. It had philosophers, scientists, and artists. And it also had the beginning of the end. Because amidst all this glory, a quiet fire began to burn beneath the surface. Struggles of power, ambition, and the blood that would shape Cleopatra's fate just a century later. As the years passed, Egypt, once a wealthy and glorious country, began to crumble. The Ptolemies, who had previously ruled with wisdom and strength, became preoccupied with their internal conflicts. Each of them wanted the throne, and anyone who objected, their fate was known. Taxes rose horribly, and the Egyptian people, they began to revolt, time after time, but they were always silenced by force. The temples were closed, and the priests, who had once been the voices of the gods, began to speak in secret. And in the midst of this chaos, a new power was watching from afar: Rome. Rome, at the time the most powerful state in the Mediterranean, could not leave Egypt with its location and wealth without extending its hand. At first, the intervention was simple. Envoys, treaties, some friendly advice. But after that, orders were spoken in a Roman voice and carried out by Egyptian hands. The situation spiraled out of control, and the Ptolemaic kings themselves began to turn to Rome to solve their problems. One of the most dangerous moments of this was when a civil war broke out among members of the royal family themselves. Blood in the palaces,
and betrayal at every corner. Alexandria, the city that Alexander had built on glory and knowledge, became an arena of conflict between brothers. And at that very moment, Rome found its golden opportunity. It began to intervene more and more, until Egypt was almost at its mercy. But from the ashes, it was preparing someone different from all those before her. A woman who would change all of history. Her name was Cleopatra. After years of turmoil under the Ptolemaic rule, a new legend is born. Her name will be etched in history, Cleopatra VII. In 51 BC, a girl of about 18 years old is crowned Queen of Egypt. But not alone. With her is her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. From the first moment, it was clear that there was a hidden fire between them. She was no ordinary girl, so intelligent that she spoke more than 7 languages. She understood politics, and at the same time, she knew how to win people's hearts with ease. But power never united them, and a dispute arose between her and her brother. She was expelled from the palace, and her power was withdrawn from her. And here begins one of the strangest stories in history. Cleopatra decided to turn to the most powerful man in the world at the time, Julius Caesar, the ruler of Rome. But how did she get to him? Rome was actually occupying Egypt, and the palace was filled with her brother's soldiers. And here came the bold idea. She sneaked into the palace, wrapped in a carpet, a real carpet, carried by servants and brought to Caesar as a gift. And when the carpet was unraveled, the queen herself emerged from it. Beauty, intelligence, and boldness, all combined in one moment. Caesar was amazed by her. Not only did he help her regain her throne, but he also fell in love with her. She regained the throne of Egypt and ruled with him again, and she bore him her only son, Caesarion. But the world never remained stable. Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome, and the whole world plunged into chaos. In the midst of this conflict, a new force emerged, Mark Antony, a fierce Roman leader, but when he saw Cleopatra, his life changed forever. A story of love and politics that shook the ancient world, that united against Rome itself, but fate was preparing a tragic end, not just for their story, but for the entire Ptolemaic dynasty. Fate was writing the final chapter in a story that began thousands of years ago, the story of Egypt, which had always been a center of greatness and which was now about to enter a long darkness. After the assassination of Julius Caesar, the world turned upside down in Rome. It was divided between 2 of its most powerful men, Mark Antony, the legendary military leader, and Octavian, Caesar's rightful heir. Each of them saw themselves as more deserving of rule. But Egypt? That was the point that would separate them. Cleopatra chose Antony, not just a political ally, but also her final love. 2 men united by ambition and the dream of a new empire to rule East and West together. But Rome never forgets. Octavian declared war on Antony and Cleopatra. The decisive battle took place at sea off the coast of Actium in 31 BC. The waves were calm at first, but as soon as the ships began to move, the sea became a raging fire. Arrows fly and fire consumes wooden boats. Antony fights fiercely, and Cleopatra follows the Egyptian fleet from afar. But a surprise happens. Cleopatra suddenly decides to withdraw. Her ships headed toward Egypt, and Antony saw her fleeing. He went berserk and decided to pursue her. And from that moment, it was the end. The army collapsed, and the fleet was scattered. Octavius won, and Egypt came under Roman rule. Antony, the fighter who had never been defeated in his life, was defeated this time, not just in battle, but in love as well. He committed suicide with his dagger, and when Cleopatra found out, she decided to pursue him. They said she used a poisonous snake, letting it bite her gently, as if she wanted to leave this world with the same symbol as her, the sacred Egyptian serpent. And with her death, the reign of the Ptolemies ended, and the last independent pharaonic kingdom fell, and Egypt began a new chapter under the banner of Rome. And at that moment, the light of a civilization that was among the greatest known to mankind was extinguished. But, despite the end, the name of Cleopatra did not fade, because she was not just a queen, she was a symbol of mystery, beauty, and power, and an end that made all of history stand in silence for a moment.
While Cleopatra was fighting to preserve the throne of Egypt, the whole world was changing around her. Rome, the unstoppable power, became the empire of the ancient world. Her soldiers were everywhere, from the deserts of Africa to the mountains of Europe. The world was afraid of Rome's eagles, just because of her name. Greece, once a beacon of philosophy, science, and thought, was transformed into a state under Roman control. The streets of Athens, which once witnessed the debates of Socrates and Plato, now heeded orders from the Roman leader. As for Egypt, it lost its golden crown and became a Roman province. It wasn't the one ruling, but it was still the richest country in the world, the land of the Nile that everyone coveted. And in the Far East, at a time when the Mediterranean was seething with war, India and China were living in a completely different era. Philosophers there were writing about enlightenment and the spirit, about the balance between man and nature, far from blood and politics. At the same time that Cleopatra was pondering how to save her throne, scientists were discovering medicine, and philosophers were trying to understand the meaning of existence. The entire world was moving at the same time, but each civilization was experiencing a different fate.
With the death of Cleopatra in 30 BC, the last chapter of 3,000 years of Egyptian rule was closed. After that, Egypt became a Roman province. But the strange thing? Despite everything that happened, she didn't die. Her name, her civilization, her temples, they continued to live. The Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines were all amazed by her and learned from her. And just as all ages come and go, no country has left its mark like Egypt. It will always remain the land of the first civilization and the cradle of immortality.